So, as Maria said, Mark Weaver, principal at K&C. K&C's been, working in this space, and by this space I mean designing structures to withstand the effects of blast effects going back to the nuclear weapons days. So K&C was heavily involved in designing our nuclear silo structures that we have in the Midwest. And basically that has continued to this day for, there's nuclear threats, but also anti-terrorism, conventional weapons, and so the main focus to this point for mass timber construction has been for anti-terrorism. So let's see. So just a quick overview of the agenda. We're going to have a quick parts 1, 2, and 3 will be in the first session. Give a quick introduction of the, an overview of the current protective design landscape. Then a brief sojourn into explosions and what we mean by explosions and specifically what we're going to be talking about today with that in that regard. And then moving into the applied research that's been performed on mass timber for blast loads over the last, I'd say 10 years, 10 to 15 years. Then we'll get, after the first break, we'll get a little bit more into the dynamic analysis, like how do you actually, what are things that you need to do to design mass timber for blast, and so that's parts 4 and 5. Then we'll take another break. The last bit is connections and a short example, and then a few closing thoughts from me. But yeah, again, as we go, any questions that you have, please feel free to interject. All right, so as you all are, I'm sure, aware, protective design and the impetus to design buildings for protective or for blast loads predates two of the big terrorist events on U.S. soil in the 20th and 21st century. But obviously the Oklahoma City bombing and the World Trade Center attack. But really, those two attacks really set it off. Really made was the impetus for importing or requiring protective construction requirements. And typically, protective design is those requirements can be broken down into one of 4 categories: blast, which is what we're going to be talking about today; ballistics, which has to do with firearms and basically preventing penetration; forced entry, having to do with attack, with a mob of some sort; and then progressive collapse, basically closely coupled with blast, but basically ensuring that, hey, if we have a blast, we're not going to completely lose a significant portion or all of our building due to one or a few key structural elements. And so, but again, as I said, we're going to focus on blast today. Because of what happened with 9/11 and with Oklahoma City, many government entities, as I'm sure most of you know, incorporated some protective design requirements. And those protective design requirements found their ways into multiple different codes. So for the Department of Defense, it was UFC 4-010-01. For the Department of State, they have a building code. Their OBO, Overseas Building Operations building code. And they also have a specific forced entry and ballistic resistance standard that is STD 01.01. And then other, agencies, so Veterans Affairs, GSA, a lot of different, basically every portion of the federal government had some level of interest in this for a time. And that wasn't just for federal agencies. There are certain municipalities and cities that have requirements. So the New York Port Authority is one example, and then Judicial Council of California is another. So, but as again, some of you may know, some of these requirements, so both of those events, those two seminal events, happened over 20 years ago now, which is hard to believe. But in part related to that, the design requirements, the protective design requirements for facilities have scaled back. So, for example, the UFC in 2018 was revised to get rid of a lot of their blast protection requirements. It's not previously all DoD facilities had to have some level of blast protection, and now it's just those that need to exhibit a medium or a high level of protection.